the health department told us was very unhealthy. I don't know, whatever. So, Mr. Fowler has come from Annapolis with all kinds of wonderful news.
Wonderful.
So, for those thousands of viewers, Mike is our legislative liaison, and of course, Ed and I have been spending a little time with Mike in that quaint little village, but Mike does an excellent job at keeping us informed of the goings-on down there. So, Mike, what do you got?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good to see you again. I think I'm going to try to follow the same basic template I have in the past. I'll sort of level set, at least this first time, talk a little bit, sort of go high level to detail. And today I'll talk a little bit about the politics because that's changed. We have 60 new legislators in this General Assembly, 43 delegates and 17 senators. Now, some of those senators are former delegates, so it's not 60 brand new people. I guess on the good side, a lot of those legislators are coming from positions in local government. That's always a good thing. We hope they bring that sense of moderation with them. Also, the DR ratios changed a little bit. There were 8 pickups in the House on the Democratic side and 1 pickup in the Senate on the Republican side. So we're at 129 Democrat, 58 Republican. So changed a little bit there. And the consensus is the new people tend to be on the progressive side coming in. So that changes the balance a little bit too. Importantly, changes in leadership. In the Senate, 3 of the chairs were either retired or lost their elections. So in Budget and Tax, Senator Casemeyer retired. He's been replaced by Senator Nancy King from Montgomery County, and her vice chair is Senator Bill Ferguson from Baltimore City. In Finance, longtime Finance Chair Mac Middleton lost his primary in Charles County. He's been replaced by longtime Senator Dolores Kelly from Baltimore County, and her chair is Brian Feldman from Montgomery County. He's been a leader in the House for several terms. And in Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs, Senator Joan Carter Conway from Baltimore City was also lost her primary, and Senator Paul Pinsky from Prince George's County has assumed that seat, and his vice chair is Senator Shirley Nathan Pulliam from Baltimore City. Senator Pinsky is right left of center, but the consensus again there is he's open. He will listen to arguments. And on the House side, Delegate Joseph Hilario had headed up the Judiciary Committee for a long time, and he also lost his primary. So Delegate Luke Clippinger from Baltimore City has assumed that seat, and Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, the second-term legislator from Howard County, is his vice chair. So that sets up the leadership in both chambers. I mentioned it's been a little slow. There were some, I think, technical problems that prevented some of the bills from moving forward, but they're starting to roll in now. We're up to about a little over 860, so coming up on 700 bills. I think next Tuesday is the last day bills can be introduced before they have to go to the Rules Committee. That's not necessarily an inhibiting factor, but the leadership does expect their members to move these bills in a timely fashion. So the major initiatives, and you're probably aware of the MACO initiatives. I'll start with those first. The first one is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the results of the Kerwin Commission. So the MACO initiative was continuing state commitment to education. So that's the state part of that commitment is required. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. The Next Generation 911, that bill has actually been introduced now. There are 2 associated bills with that. One deals with the release of what they call gory or gruesome video information, since the new system will enable video, and information that would expose a victim. And that's was opposed last year by the Press Association. They are okay with this year's version, but I understand the ACLU has some issues with it, so we have to see how that one works out. And the second one associated with that bill goes to compensation for the 911 call takers. The bill doesn't talk about direct compensation, so rates of pay, but it does try to bring them into the same benefits package that fire, police, and EMS currently enjoy. Minimum wage is another big issue for this session. The strive for 15, or the fight for 15, I think is it's colloquially alluded to. There are a couple of carve-outs in that bill. The expectation is it's going to be heavily debated. The business community will do a full court press on that, as they always do. There is some risk to the county as well, and I think that Kim Frock is well aware of that, and she's working on just what that impact is to you based on the way the bill is currently written. The issue of comparative fault, I think your county attorney can certainly fill you in on that, but this is every year. The plaintiff's bar tries to change the, contributory negligence, thank you, to a comparative fault model, which is always opposed by the counties for the obvious reasons. Another big bill is firefighter presumptions. Currently, there are a number of diseases that are presumed to be caused or presumed to be, I guess, the exposure that firefighters have. And there's a bill that proposes to add several additional cancers to that this year, which would increase, obviously, the liability to local governments. Solar siting is a big issue this year. Primarily the presumption of the state over local planning and zoning. So that's set up for a big fight. Taxes, of course, every year we see numerous tax subtraction modification bills come in. They essentially reduce taxable income, which has an effect on your revenues. MACO has proposed sort of a blanket policy to request the state to look at those as tax credits rather than subtraction modifications, which would affect only state income taxes, and then that would allow the county, should they choose, to put that credit in place. And of course, the governor proposed in his State of the State a $500 million tax cut proposal, and I think that's going to be met with stiff opposition in the Assembly. I guess particularly given the not so rosy outlook for the coming years and the expectation that we'll enter into recession sometime in 2020. There are a number of actual voter bills, that statewide voter bills that have local impact. HB 79, that lowers the registered voter thresholds to open an early voting center. And the result of that is it would require Carroll to open one additional early voting center. HB 237 also expands the hours of early voting centers from 10 a.m. to 8 a.m., so opening them 2 hours earlier, additional cost again. HB 286 proposes an elimination of the registration deadline, which I think is currently 21 days out from the election. The proposal is to eliminate that and allow people to register on election day, which is going to require additional staffing in your precincts. There's also no state funding in that bill, so that would fall directly on you. And one other one I want to bring up, it's not a voter bill. This is along the health side. HB 116, that requires state and local detention centers to assess inmates within 24 hours for opioid use disorder and to provide treatment for them if necessary. It also eventually provides treatment to existing inmates, and I believe allows, would fund peer recovery certification for those inmates that are released. The good thing about that is the bill requires the state to fully fund that program. So that's been introduced by Delegate Barron, I believe from Prince George's County, who's very active actually in this area. Some of the staff concerns to date have been relatively minimal so far. Obviously, the minimum wage is one. Citizen services funding, they've had some questions. A couple of their issues have been resolved, but we still have an eye on any bills coming in that would affect them. Back to Kerwin for a moment. You all are, I'm sure you've been following that closely, what that commission's proposed, overhauling curriculum, raising professional standards for teachers, increasing teacher pay, developing career paths, or in high schools, developing career paths, pre-K for all 4-year-olds, and preschool for 3-year-olds from low-income families. The total bill for that package as it stands is $3.8 billion, which would be through 2030. But 80% of those costs are actually triggered in year 3, which is 2023. The commission has recommended a $325 million down payment, if you will, this session. You'll remember 200 of that was set aside by last year's assembly. The governor's authorized $236 million, so there's a discrepancy there. But of course, the biggest issue in all of this is the funding formulas, which have been laid again, and you won't see those until probably October of this year. So, hey, Dan, on a down note, but that's kind of where we are today.
And that was with a B, by the way.
With a B.
Not an M, a B.
Well, I guess we should feel fortunate. It was up to $8 billion, I think, at one point.
Oh, yeah, gosh.
Got whittled
Makes us
down.
Feel so much better, Mike. Thanks.
You should dance, I suppose.
Your take or the word around town on yesterday's State of the State address. I know you talked with a lot of your colleagues there. What was the general consensus, other than I get the tax thing, which is interesting because that always puts us in a little bit of a precarious situation, because while tax breaks sound good, most of those are done on the backs of local government. So, and I said this last year, and people said I shouldn't have said it, but I'm going to say it again. You know, I could benefit from one of those tax breaks as a retired firefighter. But when you start to look at the total amount of money that we would have to pony up to allow those tax breaks for firefighters and veterans and what have you, I'm not sure where we'd make up the difference. That's the problem that I have with that. So that was sort of and that's how MACO sort of comes at it as well.
Yes.
But your take on maybe the tax part of it aside, did you hear a lot yesterday and this morning, or?
I think more of it's been sort of the politics and the optics, frankly. You'll hear a lot of the folks on the Democratic side complaining that the governor co-opts their ideas and takes credit for them, and there's been some of that that's come out. I think the other thing is that they believe that these proposals are too ambitious. It's almost reversed here. That I think it was Delegate Dumais made the Democrats' response and talked about creating a deficit. So it's a very topsy-turvy world at the moment.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the obviously politics of speculation. Will the governor run for president in
right.
2022? Right. Who knows?
I mean, my take on it is he started presidential and he ended presidential. in a 30-minute speech. He did hit the highlights. He was very focused on Baltimore City, on its dangers and crime, which segued into a very important issue dealing with opioids and drug addiction. Talking about the $800 million that he's allocated last year, a state of emergency dealing with it. So, personally speaking, there was a lot of positive notes, but it was, to me, very interesting how he started in a very presidential approach, quoting President Kennedy and President Reagan, and then finishing off with, again, quoting President Reagan, saying there's so much things we could get done without, if people just don't want to take the credit. And,
thematically very similar to, really like a direct follow-up to his inauguration speech, with a little more details on policy.
And if you weren't paying attention at the start of his speech yesterday, the start was priceless. When he turned to the Speaker of the House and said, "I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be allowed to give my address in House chambers today."
Yes.
So there was your
It's a good
your
bipartisan
start at the folks in D.C.
But he also, and I really appreciate this, wished Senator Miller great health and his courageousness in dealing with his cancer right now. So that was pretty, I would think, unprecedented, not presidential, unprecedented in that approach.
Yeah,
and
I think
appreciate
particularly
that.
given the governor's struggles with that.
Right.
And, and I read this morning that Senator Miller's cancer has metastasized in spine and pelvis, so he's really got some challenges.
He does.
And despite the criticism that comes his way, I think we're going to miss him when he's gone, frankly. I think he's been able to push back on a lot of bad ideas until he couldn't push back anymore, frankly. So he has done a pretty good job, I think, in that chamber. And it's going to become more challenging for him and whoever succeeds him, because he has made it clear this is his last term.
Can I address more pragmatic, more focused on our community? There are going to be bills being presented dealing with sewage, septic tanks, and we addressed one of them yesterday, but there's going to be a series, I think, of about 8 to 10. And these are the things that I'm asking you to help us understand as we move forward on the key issues in our community, in our county. What is being addressed down there, and where are the ones that we, as a Board of Commissioners, should put more attention on than, I'm going down there and saying, okay, these are nice, but they're not nearly as important or relevant to us. And that's where I'm going to, ask for your help in putting that attention.
Yes, and I work very closely with Tom Devilbiss and his staff because obviously that's a very technical and in many ways arcane subject.
Right.
And they are brilliant when it comes to that subject. So I work very closely with them.
I appreciate it.
Questions for Mike? Again, we're early into it, and yesterday I think, was it 600 and some, and now this morning it's 800 and some, so the bills are rolling.
Yes.
But before you guys got there yesterday, we were told that the freshman legislators were clearly told during their orientation that make sure you give the best thought that you can to bills. We just don't want a whole lot of bills coming in that are either personal or only relate to one or two constituents or that kind of thing. So they were given that direction, so that there wasn't a whole pile of the bills that always make us go, what?
And the ones that I've talked to apparently have taken heed because they've told me straight up they're going to sit back and observe and absorb and learn. They'll co-sponsor, but none of them that I know are out in front on any issues. So that's helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Mike?
I'd like to ask about the same-day voting bill. there's a potential abuse that gets mentioned to me by constituents. Is there any language in the bill to address potential abuse on that?
I believe I'll go back and check and I'll let you know, but I believe there is a requirement to produce proof of residence.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And I'm sorry, I would be remiss. I came from the delegation meeting this morning, so all of the bills proposed by the delegation have been passed, cleared up the issues around the turf field in North Carroll, so we're all good.
Okay.
And, you know, that's also a good point is, again, Commissioner Wance and I being down there every Wednesday meeting with you during the MACO meetings, also taking the target of opportunity to meet with the delegation, you know, at their convenience as well, to understand where they're going, you know, and their highlighted issues that we can also bring back. So I think amongst the group of us, I look forward to the next 9 days continuing that, you know, dialogue.
Yeah, I actually appreciate that. I think it's very helpful for them to hear from you directly. They've said as much
Yep.
to me, so I hope we can continue that, yes.
And the Kerwin Commission not addressing the distribution formula is a big bother to me because it seems like this county gets shortchanged on the distribution. And the fact that they haven't addressed that it really does not sit well, I think, with this county.
You are not alone.
Yeah.
You are not alone. That is, in fact, the two local government representatives on the commission abstained from the final vote on the final report because they believed that they didn't have enough information to make a meaningful vote. So it's clear every county is on board in the same position. No one knows what's coming. You know, the Thornton formulas are in there, the Wealth formulas. It's just everyone.
We're all frustrated.
Yeah, it puts everyone in a bad position because no one is advocating against improving the educational delivery of education to students. But at the end of the day, someone's going to write that check, and you've got to know. And it's
Who's
just
getting what and who's paying
it's
for it?
just exactly. It's just not coming. So
We
everyone's
appreciate your
frustrated.
time and energy you expend down in Annapolis.
But I appreciate it, and this is the best job I've had next to the one I had before.
Yeah. And Ed and I had a chance to visit your incredibly impressive office too.
A broom closet?
Wasn't that?
Yeah.
A little bit smaller.
That was last year. I've stepped up.
You have stepped up a little bit. So,
Yeah.
yeah. The book on a good Bordeaux was a eye-catching thing for me when I walked in.
Yeah,
so-
sharing the office with Frank, the French and wine importer. is interesting to say the
Yeah,
least.
that's good stuff. Great location. All right, Mike, thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to the weekly updates moving
Forward to
forward.
seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, now we carry on with our agency presentations. Again, I'll remind our agencies, we are not in the budget part of the conversation yet. That's coming very soon, but this is an emphasis on making sure that we hear what your focus is on the things that are happening in your agencies, and we certainly do appreciate the updates that we do on an annual basis. And we ask that you try to keep it to 15 minutes. So that part of it's kind of important too. With that being said, the Historical Society of Carroll County is first out of the gate this afternoon, and I'll invite Ms. Gaynor Davis up, and I'll let you do whoever else you're bringing with you, Gaynor, and good afternoon.
Okay. Couldn't bring some of my props with me, but I did bring some things. And I guess I can give you, shall I just?
Just hand them
Yeah,
me.
just
I'll
hand,
pass it.
we'll
Thank
we'll
you.
scoot him down the line here.
All right. And here's a bribe.
Strike that from the record.
Hey, Frank, how are you? Good. Yeah, I think we're good. 1, 2, 3.
This high-quality H2O.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I want to thank the commissioners for all that they've been doing to help the Historical Society stabilize itself and grow. And the $60,000 that we received from you for general operating has been extremely helpful. That's about 13% of our budget. We raise about 52% of our budget, and then we do have some investments and incomes, which we've laid out in the packet. We have produced for the first time, well, not for the first time, but the first time since I've been here, an annual report, which you'll find in the packet. And so I hope you'll take a chance and look at that. And we feel we're doing relatively well, but I think right now there's some feeling within the fundraising community that until the taxes settle for this year, it may affect our actual fundraising income. And we're trying to figure out what we might be doing. One of the things that we have just finished drafting is a membership satisfaction survey, which we are going to send out by SurveyMonkey, and for those who have email, and those who don't, they will get a hard copy. And we have about 650 households, so we have some ability to grow, which is good. We also wanted to thank you for the digitization money you gave us 2 years ago, and we have been moving forward on that. Have been working with Digital Maryland and getting our collections up on their particular website. We have a young woman from Johns Hopkins, their digital content program, who is going to be spending the next semester as well as the summer with us to help us work on getting more of our collections up and accessible to the public. So we're thrilled about that. We also have been using a lot of interns for different things and making sure that they have finished products that they can show off. We're not actually having them do the filing, but this, I mentioned the young woman from Johns Hopkins. I have two students from Century High School who are working on projects for us. One is illustrating a children's book that we will publish, and the other is doing a video playlet of the house that Jacob built, which is, of course, the Shellman House. And then I have a third one working on an exhibit, which I think you'll talk about. But it's very exciting to work with these young people. I think I told you last year that I was terribly impressed by the high school students. They are just very professional. Makes me feel that the coming generation is going to be okay with working with them. We've been doing photographic exhibits. We have 5,000 exhibits, and I have put something in your packet on our latest exhibit, which is called Carol on Wheels. And the first picture, I think, is of the election bet victory ride in the late 1800s, which shows the loser pushing the winner down the street in a wheelbarrow. So we thought that was a good.
Maybe we'll start doing that again.
Yeah. So, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the monies that we're requesting from you, because you were very good to us last year and gave us $5,000, which we did, I think, a great deal with. We thought we would only do 2 traveling trunks, which are hands-on interactive programs meant for the school children, and we ended up doing, well, we were finishing our 4th one with your money, which we're very excited. And we have had requests from teachers throughout the county for other ones, one on immigration, one on African American, and the other on World War I, I think. So we are hoping to get some of your support for that. We have found that we raised money last year, about $3,000, to give stipends to 3rd graders for buses to come to our field trips. And so far, we've raised enough money for 14 and have had 5 take advantage of it at this point. And so we thought that if we're being told that it's the bus money they don't have for coming, it's not. So So we're hopeful that that will do. We're going to continue to raise money for that. I guess the other thing that we're doing, we hope you'll attend, is we're having an open house on the 10th of March from 2 to 5. It's free to the public, and we're pulling out all our stops, and the audience will be able to see the traveling trunks that you have underwritten. One is on Native Americans, another one is industry in Carroll County, another one is early settlement in Carroll County, and the last one is on World War II in Carroll County. So I hope that you will come at some point, partake of punch and cookies, and enjoy seeing all of the resources that the Historical Society has. We also are unveiling one of our donations that has just been conserved, and it is a 1824 wedding dress. But unlike wedding dresses we know these days, it's a bright red, and it would have been, one, not a white one, but one that she would have reused, but very practical, thinking about
I'm sorry, we were looking through your book here as a Wance family at Devil's Den in 1912, and he was there.
He just mentioned he was in
Well
his 30s, so.
Well preserved.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so that's actually a great of mine, and
That's what I was wondering.
so's the guy in the wheelbarrow.
Is it?
Yeah, that's a Wance.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
neat.
A
I'll
winner.
find out history like
And
this.
he won as well.
Did he? Good.
okay, well, I will turn it over to our board chair. This is Frank Badovic. He's in his second year as board president, to talk a little bit about some of the other things that we're doing.
Thanks, Gaynor, and I'll echo her thanks for your support over the last year. And we've tried to do the best we can with the money we have, and I believe we've accomplished that. I'm pleased to announce that we've received a $50,000 grant from the Maryland Historical Trust last year that'll enable us to reimagine our exhibit space in Cockies. It's a matching grant. We have to come up with another $50,000, which we have, and we'll be able to redo all the exhibits with a special emphasis on the chronology of Carroll County history and a special emphasis on education for the kids. There'll be a whole touch and feel exhibit. The kids can actually smell, too, we're talking about. The kids will really get their hands on things to learn about Carroll County history. The rollout is spring of 2020, so we're working on that right now with some really good local consultants. Our biggest issue right now, we've got two of them, and we did a strategic plan in 2017. The first is the collection storage. We are at the limits on where to put things at the Historical Society. We also have a space in Hampstead we use that the county has provided that is not overly secure. It's locked, but it's been broken into and had some water damage last year for some of our artifacts. So we're really looking for a more permanent solution to storage, and just so you're aware of that. We're looking for 10,000 square feet. We don't have much money to be able to invest in that kind of planning, but we're looking for other space around the county that we may be able to afford. So I just want to put that on your agenda. The downside is that we've had to turn down people who want to give us some rather large objects that represent the history of Carroll County, and we don't have room for them. No room at all. Our current Kimmy building is chock-a-block with all kinds of artifacts, no additional room. We have storage on the second floor of Shellman, besides the place in Hampstead. So we're really looking for additional storage space, and our board is being very forward in trying to find some solutions for that. Another issue is membership. We have an aging membership, and it's difficult to get the millennials, or so-called millennials, involved in activities nowadays. And so this is having an impact on our funding. We're coming up with different ideas on how to attract a younger crowd, but this is something that's shared by organizations across the country and across the county. The Lions Club, the Rotary, all have a problem with attracting those younger folks. And some of the VFWs are having a difficulty attracting young guys and women. So we just want to make note of that it's having an impact on our budget. And we're trying to figure out how we can get younger people to join. This is our 80th anniversary, and we're proud of that. We were founded in 1939, the year of the Wizard of Oz, and Gone with the Wind. And we're having a big gala on April 26th at Antrim from 6 to 11, and it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. And I urge all of you to consider attending this. It ought to be a lot of fun. There'll be an orchestra. There'll be great food. So please plan on attending. Yes, sir.
Will you guys notify us, send us emails?
Yes, we certainly will.
We are the slave of our schedulers.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, but this should be really a fun activity. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
And I think, our strategic plan set out 3 goals. One was to raise our public visibility. 2 was to make our collections accessible on as many levels as possible. So that means on-site, online, and off-site. And I think we have been monitoring through Frank's auspices. We have a committee that monitors our progress. And that's one thing I think is really important, that we're keeping our eye on our goals. The other goal, the third goal, of course, is stabilization, making sure that we have the funds to move forward. So at any rate, I think we've done a pretty good job at doing that. I've been involved with a lot of organizations that basically do that, do the strategic plan and then put it on the shelf and nobody ever looks at it. So we are closely monitoring it and making sure that we are, actually doing what we say and making corrections as we need to. And I think we're being very responsible with the monies we have, even if they are not as much as we'd like, at any rate.
Seeing the children dressed up in Civil War clothing and stuff, that's a really good investment. I tell people, I became a Civil War history nerd by doing an elementary school field trip to Gettysburg and buying a little hat. So doing that for the children is a really big investment in the future to spark their interest.
Well, what's interesting, I know the millennials are hard to get to, but what I'm finding, and I mentioned this about the interns because of the community service hours, we are getting, I've probably had 16, 17 interns over the last 3 years, and I am impressed by the fact that they are involved, and it seems to me it's a good way to get them involved with history too, to show them the things that they can touch and feel and smell. And
Yes.
yeah, but I think living history is one of the first tap points of getting them interested.
Keep up the good job.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yep. Anybody else? Good? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. All right, HSP, Mr. Yard, the new Grand Poobah over at HSP. Is that the official term, or?
That means he'd have a fuzzy hat, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. You click it. So what we're going to do is give a pretty high-level overview of what HSP does, the type of numbers that we serve, and then go into some successes and what we're looking towards in the future. Our mission statement is to give hope, inspire change, and provide opportunity by mobilizing the community in the fight against poverty. So our goal is to fight poverty. We want to have people be self-sufficient, to utilize services, and give a hand up, not a hand down. So everything we do is about getting people on their feet, self-sufficient, and providing for themselves. About HSP, we've been around for 30 years, serving Carroll County. We're the dedicated community action agency. So we have a federal designation that makes us the community action agency. There's actually 1,000 different community action agencies across America, and we are the Carroll County designee. We have a $5.4 million operating budget, and we have a total staff number of 87. As far as our leadership structure goes, I actually have our leadership team with us here. We have myself as the executive director. I report to a board of directors. And then we have Ruth Karski here with us, who's our deputy executive director, Matt Paragoy, who's our director of development, Jenny Grable, who's our director of shelter and housing, and Robin Bridges, who is our director of home energy. So the fact is, as a leadership team in HSP, we cannot survive without the county's support, so it's important that they come as well to show their things. Our biggest program, and really our bread and butter of what we do, is shelter and housing. As you see, we have a lot of partners. Our largest partner is Carroll County Government and Department of Citizen Services. We partner with the state of Maryland, the federal government, HUD, Department of Human Services. And if you look at it, we have roughly 400 people come in each year that are either homeless, about to be homeless, or are searching for services to not be homeless. We have 5 different shelters. We have the men's shelter, which served 44 individuals last year. We have the women's and children's shelter that served 48 women and 26 children. We have the family shelter that served 36 adults and 44 children. And we have Safe Haven, which is specifically for adults with significant mental health disorders, 44 adults. And then our cold weather shelter served 184 adults. So working with a lot of people. It's also worth noting that this year we effectively no longer have a women and children's shelter. It's a family shelter because of some federal guidelines that we had to change. But as you can see, we work with a lot of individuals, and what we do is we work with individuals. We provide case management. We provide needs assessments to figure out what their barriers are and then link them to services, whether it be employment, whether it be through Burke, whether it be applying for disability, whether it be applying for financial education. Our goal is to get those individuals in, figure out what their barriers are to housing, and then find community resources to get them self-sufficient. Housing services, we also offer a lot of housing services. So we have what's called rapid rehousing, where individuals that are homeless are in the shelter and are getting a job, but they don't really quite have any savings built up, or maybe they might be able to pay the rent next month because they just started getting paid. Rapid rehousing will take them out of the shelter or out of the streets and give them a couple months of assistance to get them established, to get them off the streets, out of homelessness, and then the subsidy goes away. But with that, they get case management to make sure that they're linked to all their services so where they can become self-sufficient. We also have what's called permanent supportive housing. These are for individuals that were homeless, and these individuals would be the individuals that they may be a veteran, they may just be disabled, and they're not going to be gainfully employed. So this is a supportive service for the chronically homeless that gives them ongoing case management so that they don't return homeless again. Again, they have ongoing support from a case manager. We also do a lot of prevention. Last year, we assisted 99 households that were about to get evicted. They had a court-ordered eviction, and we can help them out with a small amount of financial assistance through various churches and civic organizations so that they don't enter in a shelter. So we avoid that gap because shelters are so costly. So we find that with preventative services, it's a lot less expensive and it has longer impact. We also last year we helped 137 households with security deposits. These are individuals that have very low incomes. They may be on a fixed income, that they're elderly, they're retired, disabled, and they don't have the security deposit to move. They have enough money to pay the rent, but oftentimes if someone's living off less than $1,000 a month, it's either they're homeless or we can help them with the security deposit. So again, it bridges a gap and prevents someone from being homeless again.
Do you get the security deposit back when they move?
We don't. We do not. The money for security deposits is actually gifts from, we have 17 different church groups that we partner with, and they make the donation. So that money is actually a gift from a church or a civic group to HSP, but it's written out to the landlord, not from us. We process it, but it's not our money. It's a gift from a church or another civic group.
So all of that, about $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
All of that's gifts, or is there monies available through, I don't know, federal grants?
Yep.
Or?
Oh, certainly, yep. And we also
Okay.
we leverage with HUD. We leverage with Department of Housing and Community Development. Yes,
Okay.
there's a lot of leverage going on.
Okay.
But one of our big things with Community Action is to engage the community. We have a lot of partners that want to participate in the process, so we do a lot of leveraging.
Okay.
Oftentimes, if someone has an eviction, they may receive support from 6 different donors. It could be a little bit of county money, which is our local emergency assistance that the county gives us.
Right.
It could be through St. John's Church. It could be through NESAP. So we partner with them and we piece together a lot of leverage funds. So the next thing is our Second Chances store. We have a free store that we provide. Roughly 3,000 people participate in that. It's a free store for individuals to come. The community donates goods. They donate furniture. They donate clothes, household items, and we give those away for free for individuals that maybe just got into an apartment, they're trying to get set up, they maybe just got a job and they're working. So this is what it does is allows them to A, mobilize the community because they can donate things that are going to get repurposed and reused, but B, it also allows individuals to have money to go towards their rent, to go towards their groceries, to go towards buying school clothes for school items for their kids. So
Can
that-
anyone come in and get, I mean, how do you, I guess, qualify people? Because, it's free furniture or whatever.
Mhm.
Can anyone walk in and say, I need this for my
Anyone can
apartment?
walk in, yes. But the reality is, most people that come in, they're already working in other services, so they're referrals from services
Okay.
that they're already working with. Yeah. Most of our individuals are in multiple types of our
So
programs.
it's like screen them at the door or anything?
No,
anybody-
no,
Okay.
a lot of programs are very heavily screened for income. This one, since there isn't any regulations behind it, it's just a good thing that we do for the community. So we don't screen eligibility for that. But
Right.
everything else we do, we're going to collect income, we're going to prove citizenship and things like that, residency, because those are heavily regulated. So if you look at our financial education services, a lot of individuals that are in shelter and housing or different programs, we provide financial education. Last year, we assisted 115 participants to receive financial ed to learn how to manage their money. We provide workshops. We do one-on-one coaching for individuals. Sometimes when a person's homeless, they may have money, but they've never managed it well. So we'll help people learn how to budget and things like that. We provide what's called the volunteer income tax assistance. So we help 1,000 people. We produce 1,000 free tax returns. And it's pretty cool because what that does is, by doing that, a lot of individuals with low income can't afford to file taxes. So they don't. So what VITA does is that actually allowed for $1.5 million in tax income returns to come into Carroll County. So that's going into businesses, that's going into local restaurants. So VITA is a very great thing because it generates economic mobility for everybody, as opposed to just not filing taxes because of the cost to do it for some low-income individuals. We also then have what's called our Opportunity Works. It's a program, it's a reentry case management. It provides pre-employment services. This would be for individuals that have significant barriers. They typically they've been incarcerated, have substance abuse issues and mental health issues. So these are individuals that they provide soft skills and work skills to get them ready to be able to work, as opposed to, these would be individuals that would be what you'd call pre-Burke. These individuals can't go into Burke and just apply for a job because they've probably never done a resume before, or they need soft skills. And we use the Second Chances store as a model to learn all these things. But then we also partner with Burke to work on other things. We actually do financial education workshops in Burke. So we have a good partnership there. And last year we served 109 people in that program. We also have what's called a community garden that produced 603 pounds of produce, which fed 484 families. Again, shelter and housing, all these things are integrated because we believe that we want people to get off of services when it comes to shelter and housing. We want people to get jobs. We want people to raise money. We want people to be self-sufficient. So a lot of our services are wrapped around our shelter and housing services so that they're integrated, so we have the best, we're getting the most return on the county's investment. We want the highest outcomes.
Yeah, and I know that you focus on that a good bit, and that's, we appreciate that. Do you see a lot of return customers, or the recidivism rate at the shelter?
We do see
So-
a recidivism rate. It's about 11%.
Okay, and when it comes to, do you get challenged by the fact that, okay, well, we found that particular individual housing
Mhm.
3 months ago, and now they're back?
No, we don't really have the 3-month thing. Typically, our recidivism rate shows up after about 2 years.
Oh,
When
okay.
so we don't have that immediate thing because we don't disengage in services often. And since we do a lot of other ancillary services, we find that while, say someone's out of the shelter, but they still may be receiving case management, or they still may be in the energy assistance program. So typically, when someone does have a recidivism, it's typically because there has been an extreme cyclical event.
Okay.
Oftentimes, you have these individuals that are duly diagnosed. They may
Okay.
have been clean, but then they, had a backslide. So it's typically one of those large triggered events.
Yeah,
But we actually do have a relatively low recidivism rate.
that's good.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I was curious about that
Yeah.
as well.
And to branch off of that just a little bit, Matt, I know you and I talked at an event in reference to the energy assistance program and how, and did you touch any of the lives of those that had the challenge of the government shutdown?
So we put the word out, and it was very, very quick to get spread around.
Okay.
Maybe Robin knows if anybody came in to take advantage of that.
I was curious. I was just curious. as to-
And I think it was, we probably, because some of the folks who maybe had been laid off or furloughed or whatever had maybe not reached that 30 days without pay.
Okay.
So it really was that 30-day without pay mark that would have been that critical breaking
Got it.
point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's a good segue, because my next slide's home energy program.
See, I
You
knew
were
that,
helping me-
Scott.
Yeah, that's right. You're just helping me out here.
I'd like to say that this community garden program is tremendous, not only with the food, but as someone who gardens, I know how therapeutic gardening
Yep.
is. So if you have people with some personal stress in their life, gardening is a tremendous thing to help out.
And a lot of those programs, we're tremendously lucky that we have a ton of volunteers. HSP, Matt, give me the number, because I'm going to say it wrong.
Last year, we had over 500 volunteers, and a majority of those, over half of those, are in cold weather shelter alone, just making that operation run every night for the duration of the season. So,
But all that food was all volunteer driven, which is great, because we have people some people want to mobilize the community by donating money. Not everybody has money, but they want to donate that sweat equity. They want to go out there and, dig the ruts for the beans or whatever, you know what I mean? So
I was
it's cool.
just really surprised to see that in there, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's low cost. That's the wonderful
Yeah.
thing. We look for services that are low cost but have a huge impact, because there's not a whole lot of money going around. There's not a whole lot of new money. So you have to take what you have and be inventive with it and get the most. We like to figure out how we can get the money we have and it be the lowest cost service. If we have a service that costs a lot of money, it might not be the best way that we may go in another direction, because we want to touch as many people as possible, not a few. And the garden's one of those key things, where it can be land that's donated from the city. Is it the city or county? From the city, and then volunteers from all over the county, and then we have job coaches that then facilitate and work with individuals to learn that skill. So it has a huge impact, but it's touched by, hundreds of people.
Part of that therapeutic gardening for me is varmint management.
Yeah,
You probably have a lot of groundhogs.
exactly.
Just tell them, don't plant the jalapenos next to the sweet peppers. I learned that they cross-pollinate.
Nice, yeah. We can't have that. So the next thing is energy assistance. So we help a lot of individuals. 1,900 households last year received energy assistance. That's 5,200 individuals that receive it. These are all low-income, elderly individuals, disabled individuals that either have been turned off, or they have a low fixed income and they get a credit each month. So we work with people that are in crisis, but we also work with a lot of people that are just retired seniors that may be widowed, and they apply because they're receiving, a very low amount of Social Security, and this allows them to stay in their own apartment, allows them to stay as self-sufficient as possible. And that's 175% of the poverty limit. For individuals that are over the limit, they may just be right over, or they just lost their job, so technically they're not they have enough income, but next week there's no money. We have an additional program which we leverage with several churches and different civic groups to help with up to 200% of the poverty limit. But sometimes we have people that may be over the threshold, but then they're in what's called that moderate low income, but they have extreme other circumstances that are becoming a barrier to self-sufficiency. And we try to figure out, because if you can help out a little bit, it's best to do that with a little bit of help, as opposed to it costs $40 a night for every individual in a shelter. So it's taking money and leveraging to provide a preventative measure so that you don't get caught into the huge expensive costs of shelter and housing. So we try to keep that low. The next program we have is our family support program. So we have 69 individuals that receive roughly 4,000 visits on adult education, basic life skills, health classes, parental care, social support. So these are things where individuals, they're coming here because they want to be a better parent. And we have specifically partnerships with Carroll Community College, the Judy Center, the local management board, and things of that. Another worth pointing out is all the other partners we have with shelter and housing, is we work very closely with the detention center, the adult drug treatment court, the state's attorneys, parole and probation, the libraries, the Department of Social Services. So these are all partners that we're working with to leverage their services and our services so that we can tackle these individuals' barriers to self-sufficiency. So my last slide is we've had some successes this year. We've restructured our delivery model to be an integrated services model to enhance our shelter and housing outcomes. We recognize that over the years, HSP's kind of gone in some different directions, and we wanted to focus on what we're really here to do and really tasked with the county and the support of the county is providing the best shelter and housing services. We did start weatherization this year. That's another program for low-income, senior, elderly individuals that may be living in their own home, but they're on a very low income, and it's a service that will help weatherize their home. It might be sealing their windows. It could be someone with a furnace that doesn't work, and this will provide a little bit of assistance to make their energy burden more capable. We also began what's called the homeless recovery case management. Before, when someone would come into services, they'd get put on a wait list for shelter, and they would just kind of wait. You know, they'd try to get services somewhere else. Now we have homeless recovery case managers that will grab people right away, and the goal is to get them housed and get them, instead of just sitting, living in the woods, waiting for, you know, your spot in a shelter list, you're getting case management right away. And of those 80 this year that we've worked with, 20 of them were able to get their own apartments and not even have to go into the shelter system. So it's prevention, and it's what's called diversion. How do we get people right away out of crisis and into a more productive arena? Another big thing we had was Carroll Cash Day was a great success for us. We're partnering with the Carroll County Public Library. We're able to provide financial education assistance and services to 400 individuals. And we want to keep doing those because we believe that if you can get people a hand up and not a hand out, they'll continue to thrive. So we're very, very much into the education piece. We're very much into the training and coaching piece. Looking ahead, we want to continue to deliver outstanding shelter and housing services. Our new structure, our integrated service structure is matching our goal, because that's what we want to do, provide the best service we can. And we want to continue to be a meaningful, productive partner with Carroll County government. Because the reality is HSP cannot, without the support and without the partnership of Carroll County government, HSP wouldn't exist. So we want to make sure that you're very clear of what our intentions are, what our focus is, and the gratitude that we have for the support you give us. Any questions?
Excellent.
Just, I guess, relatively quickly, in the military, we say hope is not a course of action, but you referencing hope, change, and opportunity, you're changing my mind, because
right?
you definitely have a real course of action to success with your vision. You're very impressive, Scott. I'm not, and I don't say that lightly. I'd like to learn more why you're doing what you're doing. Sure. You really inspirational. The message that you shared, very strong, and I imagine your team takes it from you and others, and they're just as strong. So I look forward to learning more. But great job.
And to be honest, this isn't my vision. It's not my message. That's why I brought the leadership team. It's our vision and our message, and that's why it was important for them to be here, because everything here that I've said or that we've spoke about, it cannot be done. Not only can it not be done without the support of the Carroll County government, it can't be done without the support of our team. And I definitely would love to set up a one-on-one to meet and we can dig into more details. That'd be great.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I believe since Commissioner Rothstein and I are new on the board, we have been thoroughly impressed with the amount of organizations out there in our community that are helping those that are struggling out there with poverty and drug addiction. I had no idea, and I'm sure most of the population has no idea as well, but there's a lot going on out there, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So I'll wrap this up, and I'm going to take it in a little bit different direction and be a little blunt here. Your energy and enthusiasm is refreshing. And you had me at restructured delivery model to investigate services to enhance shelter and housing opportunities, because that is truly something we needed to do here. Yes. And I applaud you for that energy and enthusiasm. No disrespect to those that went before you at HSP, but you bring a whole new level over there in the 4.5 years that I've been working with HSP, and I thank you for that. And we look forward to the partnership moving forward.
And I'd be remiss, too, if I didn't bring up Christine Kay, who's been a tremendous...
I'm sorry, who?
Christine Kay. She has been tremendous with giving us the support we need, giving us the oversight that's required to make sure we're on the right path. So credit to Christine for working with us and the communication and, spelling out some of those expectations. So a lot of that has to do with her leadership as well.
Sometimes you're challenged to find the mix of folks and the right people to plug into the right places. I think we've got that, and I appreciate the fact that you're on board now.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Boy, I'd hate to be the next group that has to come up.
Yeah, I don't, next group might want to just, you know. Do we want to scoot this around a little
We're-
bit before
We're
we
getting
do?
gifts, you gotta bring something.
Before we do Carroll Media, Mr. Turner, how about Mosaic? Since we're on that theme, why don't we continue with that, and then we'll let you guys wrap up. So now, good luck, Mosaic. But just to keep that theme going here, because they do similar things in the community, and I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
Tough act to follow. Ooh. Ooh.
Including the chair, right?
Including the chair.
Yeah.
My name is Oleg Tarkovsky, and I represent Mosaic Community Services. Mosaic is an affiliate of the Shepherd Pratt Health System. There's a total of 3 affiliates. There's us, there's Way Station in Frederick and Columbia, and there's Family Services in Gaithersburg and Montgomery County. In total, including the affiliates and the Shepherd Pratt Health System itself, we're the largest nonprofit behavioral health provider in the country. And so we have lots of locations, and one of our major locations is here in Carroll County. And so in Carroll County, what you're looking at there is our budget for the services and the programs located here in Westminster. The 5 distinct programs are Carroll County Vocational Project, the Get Connected Carroll County Project, the Carroll County Residential Project, our PRP project, and the Clinical Services. By far the largest program, and this is the one I directly oversee, is our clinic, which serves close to 1,000 people every year, providing over 15,000 services here in Carroll County. That is by far the largest provider of these types of behavioral health services in Westminster. The services range anywhere from diagnostic assessments. So these are folks that are struggling with some kind of mental health or addiction issue and decided finally to get some help. And so they come into our clinic, we assess them, we give them a diagnosis if they have one, and then decide or make recommendations based on what we found in the assessment, what they need to do next. Usually, I would say 80% of the time, recommendations are made to actually get clinical services. That includes a therapist, includes some kind of medication assessment, and then maybe other services like residential or day programming. We find that about 1/3 of the population that we screen have some kind of an addiction issue, and so we make recommendations for treatment of that addiction disorder. Once the person becomes a regular client at Mosaic, they are also now eligible for all sorts of rehabilitative activities. And so the other programs I just mentioned, again, I don't know how they stack up in comparison to other service providers in the similar type of service here in Carroll County. But for example, for residential beds, we currently have 28 beds in Carroll County that house folks with severe chronic mental illness that otherwise would not be able to live on their own. We have about another 30 beds of what we call supportive beds, where folks live on their own. Some of them could be living in Mosaic-owned housing, some of them could be living with family members or their own apartments, where our staff come to them on a weekly basis to help them manage the activities of daily living, taking medication, cleaning, cooking for themselves, and so on. The VOC program is probably the most successful program for us here in Carroll County. We have right now about 90 clients in the VOC program, and 73% of them are currently employed here in Carroll County. And then the PRP project, which is our day program. This is where folks come in during the day. Right now our census is about 50 people. Again, this is where they can get case management, they can get food assistance, they can get transportation, they can get anything that helps them rehabilitate from the existing condition that they're in. And typically, in order to even qualify for that level of service in the state of Maryland, they have to have what's called severe chronic mental disorder. And there's a priority population list of those diagnoses in order for them to be able to participate in the program. So again, we're talking about some of the sickest folks in the county that are now able to take care of their needs not only residentially, but also during the day. A good portion of those folks receive the vocational services if they want to work or work towards some kind of education. and 100% of them receive our clinical services, which is the therapy, the medication management, treatment planning, and any other clinical needs that they may have. Again, what you have in front of you is our annual budget. The first sheet is our FY19, and the second one is FY20, and the third page is where most of those funds come from. And as you can see, 90+% of the funding comes from Maryland Medicaid or Medicare. A little bit comes from commercial insurance, and almost nothing comes from private pay. And Carroll County's part of this budget in FY19 was about $107,000, and we're expecting it to just go up slightly, up to $110,000 next year.
So all of those services that you provide, you do that all out of your facility in Westminster? All of those are done
Yep.
in that facility?
Yep.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And majority of the dollars, so as you see, our total annual budget is about $3.5 million. Over $2 million of that is going directly to pay salaries of people that live in the county and serve
Okay.
folks in the county.
How many staff do you have at your facility, not counting the residential part of it, just the folks that work at the facility there in Westminster?
About 40 people.
Okay.
Yep. Anywhere from receptionists, intake coordinators, to then counselors and therapists, to then doctors, nurses, to then residential counselors, day counselors, all sorts of folks, case managers. So I would say 50% of those folks have bachelor's degrees, 25% have master's degrees or higher, and then the rest are folks with high school diplomas and above.
You know, like the brief before, very well prepared, and I appreciate it. And obviously, the dedication, selflessness that you're presenting shows true. So I do appreciate the hard work that you're providing to our community and minimizing or mitigating the challenges that are out there. How many, I won't say how many, do you have folks that are also in the VA and that you're also servicing? I mean, and how do you work with that?
So, great question. So this is actually something that Mosaic has just recently gotten into full steam ahead. So up until about 2 years ago, we did not have many services connected with the VA. 2 years ago, Mosaic merged with another organization called Alliance. And Alliance, as part of their mission, was dedicated to VA services. They actually have the largest VA contract for cleaning services in Maryland. So they were using vets who had some kind of a disability, but also wanted to work. And so we have a contract, for example, to clean a lot of the federal buildings, to clean the MTA around the state. And so as Mosaic merged with Alliance, we took over that contract and now, again, have become the largest provider of those services. Which means that while the person, a veteran, goes to work, does what they do during the regular day, if they also have a mental illness, they need to get those needs addressed as well. And that's where we come in as a clinical practice to, again, see them for therapy, prescribe them medication, and so on. We are also starting to track and monitor that a lot closer. So that's just one piece that we're trying to improve in how we monitor, but also what methods and sort of processes we apply to that population as compared to everyone else. But that's just one little piece. The other major piece that we're doing as a new component of how we provide all of these services is we look at what's called trauma-informed care approach. So we find which ones of our clients or patients have had trauma in their history, and then address that trauma through treatment. And the same the third component is addiction. Again, every single person that comes through our door gets screened and assessed for addiction-related disorders, and then depending on our ability or availability of services for that particular need, we either provide it ourselves or refer them to someone else. We right now are the largest referral base for Carroll County Hospital. So again, probably 60% of their discharges come to us for outpatient clinical services. And we're also trying to build a capacity to be able to provide what's called medication-assisted treatment services, where doctors prescribe medications to treat the addiction disorders via telemedicine. So here in Westminster, we have a couple of full-time psychiatric prescribers who can get an X license that will allow them to treat somebody that requires something like Suboxone or methadone. That's by far not enough of a provider source. But if you took all of our sites, we have dozens and dozens of other providers, which up until very recently were siloed into those geographic locations. Today, with the use of telehealth, which again at Mosaic we've been doing for a couple years, we're able to pipe in that psychiatric prescriber into any one of our locations, including here in Westminster. And so a next big undertaking for us will be to do MAT here in Westminster.
Thanks.
Would it be safe to say that an investment in your organization takes stress off our judicial system, detention center?
Absolutely. So what you're touching there is something that a lot of people have been talking about for many years, but nobody has been able to put their finger on in terms of how to measure. Because we know that, for example, if an individual's behavioral health needs are not addressed, it reflects in all sorts of ways, including the correctional system, including the police department, including the educational system, including the employment system. And so what we are doing now is trying to find a way to measure some of those things. And in order to do that, we have to create partnerships between us and those other entities where our consumers may end up being a part of. So the criminal justice system, for example, has a way to track who enters their system. That's one little piece of the equation. What we're trying to achieve is real-time equation, which means we have to partner with the police departments very closely, where they would be able to identify a person that, for example, commits a crime and may be arrested, but then instead of sending them to jail or prison, we provide them treatment. And so that's the trick. And not a lot of people have figured out how to create that workflow in order to interrupt the process. Because what's happening now a lot is the person gets arrested, they go through the criminal justice system, they get charged, they get sentenced, they go to the jail or prison, and then either as a condition of their release or parole or probation, or right in the jail, they're getting treatment. Usually that's either too late or the tail end of it. We're trying to intervene in between.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's amazing. Anything else from colleagues? Oleg, thank you.
My pleasure.
I was it was good to have an update on what you're accomplishing over there.
Absolutely.
And I'm hopeful that you've developed some partnerships with some other of our agencies and that they know, because you guys often go unnoticed.
Yeah.
Mosaic does. So you're doing an awful lot. So I hope
Thank you.
this opens some eyes too. So.
Thank you. Technology is going to be the huge element in this equation, as we're able to work using the existing technology, but creating new workflows within that technology, especially overcoming some barriers of confidentiality, certain things that just are hard walls between our two systems. We'll be able to make a lot of this come to fruition.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, Carroll Media Center. Mr. Turner, and I appreciate your patience, sir. Thank you very much.
The pressure's off now. Thank you.
I couldn't resist.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
I see you brought the VIP with you.
That's correct. I brought a little bit of backup. Thanks for the opportunity. Honorable Charles Harrison here is our board chair, and Sherry Taylor, who is our marketing director. And I'm Richard Turner. I'm the executive director of the Community Media Center of Carroll County. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to have Charles go ahead and kick off this afternoon.
Okay, well, good afternoon, Commissioners, and welcome to the new members of the Board of Commissioners. We, too, are appreciative of the change of format that allows us to directly address what we're accomplishing as opposed to how much we're costing you all, which is always a good thing. We very rarely have an opportunity to talk about the programs that we sponsor and the impact on the community. You know, CMC has a special relationship with the county. as a result of the franchise agreement. That relationship caused us to rethink and to further analyze our role that we're playing within the community here. And as a part of that rethinking, we realized that we do have a fiduciary responsibility, not only to you all, but to the community itself. So an example of this, and the board recognizes that. The board of directors do, and we have started that process. As evident, we have just completed an annual audit, and that audit indicated that we were successful, that we were headed in the proper direction, and that as a result, we, the board members, will handle that audit yearly henceforth going into the future, because it allows us to reassess at any given point whether we are good stewards of the funding that you all have provided for us, and that we, in fact, have a healthy return on our investment. You know, a part of that rethinking process and reformalization of the board was that we redid our strategic plan. We contacted all of our stakeholders and participants in the various municipalities and individuals who receive the services that we provide. We took a second look at our vision statement and to determine if it was appropriate. The tenure at a time sometimes dictate change, so we continue to look at those issues. The vision statement for the Carroll County is that residents have access, engage, and create digital content while increasing their understanding of their community and expand their participation in the community. In the time of fake news, unsure of what's right, what's wrong, we see a significant role that the Community Media Center can play going forward. We took another look at our mission statement. And the mission statement of the Community Center is to provide Carroll County residents and organizations with services, tools, training, and access to innovative digital technologies that engage, inform, and connect them to the community. You all will note that I mentioned three segments. The three segments is the residents, individuals who subscribe to our cable network. They are experiencing change. They have recently experienced, I believe, a rate hike also, which impacts on the amount and where they receive their news from. The second is organizational issues, which requires a relationship with the business community. We understand that the focus of you all is to increase small businesses and business opportunities here in Carroll County. We view ourselves as an integral part of that, and that they are connected with the community, and that's a viable option for us. To look at all of this in a vacuum would be shirking the board's responsibility. So we came up with some strategic outcomes that we can anticipate from this new effort and all these changes that we're enacting. We want to engage, first of all, and that's to increase community engagement, participation, and retention of residents who participate with us in our programs, organizations, businesses in Carroll County who support our mission, create digital media, and how they utilize our services. The other strategic outcome is we want to reassess and actually monitor our impact on the community. Are we being successful? My experiences with the FBI was that, you know, we took a hard look when I was an FBI inspector. Are we being effective because of management or in spite of management? So we want to be able to assess the impact we're having on our community and take a hard look at our organizational capacity to further those outcomes. And once we took that initial look, we realized that we have got to maintain a relationship with the community, with the businesses within the community. And finally, we wanted to be innovative. We wanted to innovate. We wanted to initiate innovative research and development projects, exploring technical integrations, platforms, methods, and tools for the creation and the dissemination of digital media. Things are changing. Even today, my smartphone is smarter than I. So we must be creative in the way we innovate and utilize technology to enhance and our engagement with the community. Thank you all for the funding that you all did provide to us, which allows us to enhance what we do and the equipment that facilitates us accomplishing these tasks. So at this juncture, Richard, could you go into a little bit of detail regarding some of our accomplishments?
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to report back after a year. We've been rebuilding and transforming as an organization. You know that when I joined the organization now a little over 2 years ago, one of the call to action for me was to really look carefully at what are the opportunities that are out there within this community to partner, to find ways to revitalize what can be a very important asset within our community. And to that end, we have focused on the three primary sectors. You'll know them as PEG access, public education, and governmental access. And so we are more than just the three television stations. You might relate to us that way, and we're more than an educational or training program and more than a digital media incubator. We are committed to civic engagement and building our collective understanding of our community. You know, we're not funded through general funds. It's this special relationship because of the franchise fees. So we work within that funding mechanism to ensure that we can deliver services. So we have to be constantly aware of the influences of the technological changes that are occurring there. We know cord cutters, what goes on in terms of the reduction, and that not every home is wired for cable. There are many places in our community that don't have cable passing out in front of the street. So we have to find innovative streaming technologies to also reach out so that the development of our programming can reach the full community. I've added in your packet a couple of items. You see our strategic framework, which is the more sort of multicolored one, gives you a little bit more look at things. We also have a simple infographic that gives you statistics really combined as in a way of effectively showing you some of our key indicators or key performance indicators in this area. That really gives you a quick look if you wanted to get into that in more detail. I'd be glad to come in at any time and chat with you more about that. But importantly, as we go operationally every year, we develop a series of priorities. It's a long list that continues to grow as we assess those who are utilizing our services and those who aren't, so that we can bring them in and make sure that they get engaged and involved. So subsequently, our product, for the most part, is programming. It's content that we distribute on the cable channels and through our streaming services online, such as YouTube and through Facebook. And we program on channels 19 and on channels 23. And so you see a little bit of the statistics there in terms of the kinds of coverage that we've been able to provide. I'll note that it is more local, probably more local content than you will find on any other channel, broadcast channel that's out there. The 5 channels that are dedicated for this purpose, you know, from the schools, from the community college, and as well as from your own county government programming efforts, are key enablers for our local constituents knowing about what's going on in their community that they don't find through traditional media. They won't find on broadcast television. So to that end, we focus clearly on that has impact with our municipal meeting coverage. We have a breakdown by our various communities. We'd like to do more in those areas, and we're looking to try and figure out how to transform the fiber facilities so that we can increase the amount of programming from each of those towns so that there's greater accessibility to what goes on in government transparency. You know us from our coverage of the primary election, and it's without a doubt that we provide more coverage on local elections than any other source. Having the opportunity for individual candidates to get a level playing field and make sure that the electorate is aware of who's running, what their platform is a vital part of our democracy. Our Carroll History Project is one that really reaches out and seeks to understand where we come from, making sure that we understand our past. And we've been fortunate with the development of the Rock of Our Ancestors documentary that occurred prior year, was actually sought out. Frederick Public Library asked us to come and do a presentation because there are no similar efforts in Frederick County. And so the community there was very interested in how we went about this process. and engage this particular community in being able to tell their story from their perspective. And in addition, we were asked to give a national presentation on this effort as well, how other community media centers could learn from what we do here in Carroll County with respect to documenting our history and giving a sense of purpose in our media to those stories that often go untold. Included in that in our Carroll History Project is our Carroll County Veterans Collection, in which we seek out and find our veterans so that they can tell their story about how they have lived and a little bit about their service, so we can give true dedicate a commitment to their contribution, celebrate that contribution. Part of our traditional role of being a public access facility is to provide opportunities for anyone from our community to come in and learn television production and video production and create that content for distribution on our channels. That's the public access function of Channel 19. And as part of that, we want to connect them to our community service and our nonprofits. So we engage them by having a media makers group, and we produce the program called Carroll Helping Carroll through those efforts. So volunteers come in, they learn how to do television production, and in the process we bring in nonprofits. They pitch ideas, and tonight we were actually having a meeting under which various members from the community can come in and pitch their idea for coverage of a television program to be included in Carroll Helping Carroll. You can see some of the highlights of those that were covered. We also do education, have an educational mission because we want to include internships for those who are learning as part of their careers. So we've had an impact there and expanded that in the past year to include the Arc of Carroll County with their summer youth program. We currently have a Berks youth program placement in our facility, as well as working with the Carroll Community College and their entertainment technology co-op program. We have various partnerships with various organizations, and you've probably seen, not only seen, but have participated and been there, where we try to get coverage of that. Yesterday, we launched a new channel, so we now have a 6th channel on Comcast. We're fortunate, as part of the franchise negotiations back in 2016. The challenge there, it's one HD channel under which we have to combine 5 of our standard definition channels into that one channel service.
So you're HD now.
We are HD as of yesterday, that's
See,
correct.
Out where I live, we don't have cable or internet or anything. So this is good information for me.
Yep.
Because we're in the dark in District 1.
You have smoke signals.
And we know this is a real challenge of anyone who's outside the dense areas in our county. So we are now on channel 1086. I know it's a really high number, but that's the one that Comcast gives us. So we started programming yesterday, and that is now a combined effort. And so we meet, we've begun meeting regularly to try and ensure that the programming from all of those programming sources come through on that channel. So that was launched with new equipment and new capabilities. Now, we didn't receive any additional funding to launch, so we're now operating a 3rd television station in the same level of cost structure expense that we've been provided before. We have, in terms of leveraging our investment, we're working with other community media centers across the country. We're leveraging a common investment in web development. We're just about to roll out a new website. This will be essentially, we're converting our operating expense to capital expense so that we can leverage that capital investment through the capital grant that we receive. And as part of this, when we develop a module through an open source framework, we share that module with these other community centers, and they share what they're developing with us at no additional cost. So while they focus on one aspect of the website development, we get to use that, and then while we develop something, we exchange that. So it gives us a much more robust result and impact than if we were to do it alone. So that collaboration not only extends within the county, but goes outside the county to national efforts. So you'll expect to see shortly a new website, and that will be a robust digital media platform that will allow us to engage our citizens and distribute our content, and also provide us our back end for our services. So we're actually going to be engaging our members with a pay portal, with being able to get additional educational services through that website. It was clear we needed to diversify our revenues. 97% of our revenue comes from sources of the franchise fees. So we are expanding our production services, and in fact, we increased the amount that was collected. And so that's my reminder that my 15 minutes is up.
Big hook is I'll get you.
So I'll wrap it through the last portion here. In terms of research and development, we took a note from the software development industry, and we took on agile development so that we could do fast, rapid prototyping, essentially. We developed a new program on sports highlights. We prototyped a pilot so we could go out to high schools, and we started in June with research, and by September we were producing almost a weekly 4 episodes out of sports highlights. And then again, starting in September, ending in now just recently, we did a sports wrap-up show where we took those highlights and we actually wrapped them into a studio-style magazine show. So we did this as the pilot so we could show and prototype exactly what the capabilities were, and we see it as a platform for raising additional funds, and we have a little bit of a clip for you.
Thanks for joining us for CM Sportsnet Football Wrap-Up. I'm Mike Preston. Today, we will be looking at highlights from the best of Winters Mill and Westminster High School's 2018 football seasons.
Now it's time for an overview of Carroll County High School football for 2018.
Alex Barnes runs for 5 yards for a touchdown to win the game. The final score is Manchester Valley 20, Winters Mill 26.
With us today is Matt Miller, head coach for Winters Mill.
We felt this year we worked as hard as coaches as we've ever worked before, kind of due to circumstances that we didn't anticipate. You know, we had some injuries across the board. We brought up a lot of young kids to the varsity from the JVs.
I think football is a game of life, you know, and there's so many life lessons that you learn playing this game. And, you know, there's things that our players that we struggle with some things in the locker room, different, you know, understanding being a team.
Thanks for joining us for CM Sportsnet Football Wrap-Up.
That's exactly right. We were going for essentially network quality so that we showed what our potential is, leverage the investment that we have in our equipment to the highest degree, and our staff talent. Couldn't do it without the great staff that's there. And I think it shows the opportunity in terms of getting additional investment from the community, diversifying our funding and what the future can hold.
Well, I know there's people out there in our community who have a higher passion for our local sports and national sports, so you have a greater appreciation for what these kids do.
Right. Be remiss if I didn't thank not only our staff, volunteers, and interns, but also the support we get from the county staff. Roberta Wyndham, Mark Ripper, Chris Swam have just been invaluable in terms of our ability to collaborate and partner in terms of what we do, and also Carol Shawver from the Cable Regulatory Commission. Just key enablers for us to be able to continue and sustain our mission. And we thank your support.
Excellent. Thanks for the service y'all did during the election cycle. I'd like to especially thank Mr. Harrison for the wonderful job he did at the forums. You have one of those voices like Barry White or something.
Election's over.
He's not my constituent. He is.
Thank you for what you guys do.
Yeah.
You really made some improvements.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, impressive. I didn't know you were HD now. Does that come with makeup now? Because
well,
HD.
we do have a makeup station. Yes,
Yeah,
it
it's
shows
probably
every little detail that you didn't want to show.
Okay.
No, good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Barry White.
All right.
Got Virginia for him.
Next on the agenda this afternoon, a presentation to discuss policy adjustment for the Housing Administrative Plan.
Y'all have been patiently waiting.
Why are you hobbling? Huh? Why are you hobbling? Okay, sorry. No, sorry.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No, okay.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Commissioners Rothstein and Boucher, to formally introduce you to Danielle Yates, our Bureau Chief for Housing and Community Connections. Danielle oversees our Public Housing Authority and also assists me with our different relationships and partnerships with the nonprofits. Each year, we have, the Bureau of Housing has an, an administrative plan that we update on an annual basis, and which is called the annual plan, and the Board of Commissioners has to approve that, and it goes to public hearing every year. We had some revisions this year that we wanted to bring to you in a draft form before going to public hearing, which is what we're doing today. Next, once you approve the additions, or if we have any changes to make, next Thursday we'll actually be coming back to you to formally go to request to go to public hearing and a 45-day review for public comment. So with that, I'm going to have Danielle review the changes that we made this year, want to make this year.
Good afternoon. So as Christine has noted, our agency is proposing 7 adjustments to terms and policies that are currently in our administrative plan. You will see that we have added 2 new chapters to our administrative plan. They are program integrity and fair housing and equal opportunity. In Chapter 5, we have 3 adjustments to policy. 1 is head of household will not be required to share a bedroom with a child or non-spousal adult. 2 is any increase or decrease in family unit size will be adjusted at the next annual recertification. And just for clarification, the annual recertification is the required annual review that our agency does on every family just to ensure their eligibility in the program. The 3rd adjustment in Chapter 5 is space may be provided for a child who is away at college but who lives with the family during recess. In Chapter 14, we noted, in Chapter 14, regarding possible termination or denial of assistance due to criminal activity, we are just tightening up our language to clearly note the criminal activity that threatens the health, safety, or right to peaceful enjoyment of other residents will be grounds for denial or possible grounds for termination. Our last adjustment was in... Yes,
criminal
sir.
activity, you mean they've been convicted?
Well, conviction, and what we do is if you see continual repetitive issues, because we have personal relationships with all of our police departments, and we have numerous issues where they've been sent to an address, and there's clearly a threat to individuals around, we can terminate based on that as well.
Okay.
Our last adjustment is actually, I apologize, it notes Chapter 12, but it's actually Chapter 11 with recertifications. And what we've done is we've just dropped the dollar amount at which an interim would be completed. And an interim is just an adjustment to the rental subsidy regarding the amount that our public housing authority provides on the family's behalf. Can I answer any other questions that you may have?
Were these changes driven locally, or are they coming from somewhere else, or?
What we do annually is we look at plans, the plan, and we look at maybe any issues we've had through the year.
Okay.
And then what we also do is we work with surrounding public housing authorities as well. So we
Okay.
go out to Howard, Frederick,
Okay.
Cecil County, Westminster City, and we just try to make sure we all are kind of aligned
Okay.
properly.
Danielle, give a brief overview of why the 2 new chapters, 16 and 17.
Yeah, so basically, why we've separated, what it is we have in numerous chapters where we talk about program integrity, and we also talk about fair housing and equal opportunity. We felt that it was just more beneficial to have all of this information in one chapter, so it's better identifiable and explained.
So it's information that's been in there, it's just now
Correct. It has been in there, it's just highlighted in its own chapter.
I think you have Chapter 15, you said 16, your program, Chapter 15's program integrity.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think
Oh,
that's
just-
Chapter 16, I think it's Chapter 15 programming.
Oh, okay, I see.
Integrity on the change.
That's 15, that's 16.
Thank you. Something like that.
Okay, any questions or concerns on the changes? I guess we're looking to approve the changes so that you can then move forward, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to.
Well, and you can have time to review, and we will be back next week where we can
Okay.
discuss more.
Right, so the point here is approving procedurally to come back next week, bringing this.
So typically, in the past few years, what we've done is we have come before you the same day we are asking to go to public comment for 45 days. And because we had so many changes this year, we
Right.
wanted to give you time to review
I appreciate that.
before saying, hey, we're going to
Make
make
these
these changes and tomorrow go to public comment for 45 days.
Okay.
So.
All right. So are you looking not to approve the changes today, but to have us look at it for a week and then approve the changes next week? Or approve the changes today?
That's fine.
Because that's where I'm getting challenged. He said one thing, you said another. Well, I know, but
Either
that's
one
not
is
what was
fine.
asked.
So if we can get them approved today, but if you want the time to look at it, approval next week is fine also.
I don't think there needs to be a motion. I think it's, this is more informational, and then
Yes.
next week, we will be prepared
And then the
at
motion
that
will be
point to make a motion.
Okay, that's against what.
It's just a briefing.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not what is
Yeah, that's
written up in
fine. I just
staff.
want to make
It's
sure
just-
we're doing it procedurally okay. I would agree with that because, not that we look and read at everything that we get in front of us, but with this many changes, I think we will, just to make sure that we're okay with the, not that you don't do your job really well, but just to give us a chance to
Sure. Yeah.
review it, so, okay. You good with that, Dan?
I'm good with that, yeah.
Come back and then we'll approve or whatever, or make
Yeah.
any recommendations for changes next week.
And then
It's
they'll
all
go
true.
to public meeting. Well,
And at the same
Yes,
time, we
and
could.
then
We
request
could-
to go out
yes, as
for
long as we
public
could do that at the same
At
time.
the same
right.
time,
Right.
we can move it forward, okay?
Yep, that's great.
Good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Yep. Pull that out just so I know what the
Exactly.
changes
That's
are.
what
We're not allowed
Yeah.
to sleep.
So,
that makes sense.
okay. All right, next up, request approval for additional funding for the RK&K engineering contract for Willow Pond. How'd you all get up here so quick? Would you drop down?
We're efficient.
You hesitated a minute.
Yeah, I did?
Yeah.
Gail and Chris, hi. Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we are here today to request approval of the change order from RK&K in the amount of $35,560 for the Willow Pond project, which is located in Westminster off of Sullivan Road and Sunshine Way. On March the 24th of 2016, we were before the board in open session requesting approval to award the original contract to RK&K in the amount of $159,567. Consistent with this, we are doing two practices on this retrofit area. One is going to be the retrofit of the existing stormwater pond. The other is going to be a stream restoration project and a reconnection of the floodplain in the area of the pond. The project is in conjunction with our NPDES permit, and it also is in conjunction with the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement, which was signed between the Board of County Commissioners and the municipalities in 2014. The City of Westminster currently owns the parcel where this work will take place. And one good thing about the project, in 2019, we were awarded the DNR grant for the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Trust Fund for construction of the project at $1.9 million grant funding. So along with the application, the engineering was part of the cost associated with the cash match that we were going to be contributing toward the project when we applied for the grant back in 2018. We also wanted to let you know that we've had two change orders on the engineering to this point, which did not take it over the 10% requirement to come back, which was approved by our director. This new change order will take that amount over the 10%, which requires your approval. And I brought Chris along with me today, our watershed restoration engineer, to explain a little bit about the change orders to date.
Sure. So, as Gail said, we had a couple of change orders early on in the process. This first one was based on hydraulic modeling that was done for the project. The assumption when the original bid was put together was that that we could use hydraulic modeling that was already completed. There were some changes that they had to make to the modeling that were unanticipated, so they requested additional funds for that. So that was a total of $4,700. The second scope amendment was related to once the concept design was completed, they identified through the new hydraulic and hydrologic modeling that they could save the county $80,000 in construction costs if they did a minor redesign. And so we felt it was warranted to spend, at that point, it was $9,500 in a change order for them to do a redesign in order to save the county $80,000 in construction costs. So at this point, we have before us a third scope amendment that has 4 parts to it. The first part relates to design changes from the original scope. Those changes include some redesign to address thermal issues that we're trying to address, and some redesign related to a walkway that was originally proposed but then had to be removed from the project, et cetera. The second part is for permitting support. This is the first project that we have done related to stream restoration, this size stream restoration. And typically the county, we take care of the permitting in-house. In this case, we got into some complexities with the Army Corps of Engineers, in part because the Army Corps, typically we deal with the Baltimore office, and because of allocation of resources, they had a Pennsylvania office address our permitting, and so we started experiencing some other questions that we normally don't have to deal with. And so we need some additional support from our consultants, our K&K, to address those permitting concerns. The third aspect is related to the restoration credits we get for the stream restoration. There is a default amount that we can get, and that is what we originally designed to. But with a little bit of analysis, we can get increased nutrient credits because we can verify how much nutrients the stream restoration will provide. And that will greatly increase the amount of credits and the value to us for the work. And then finally, the last part is increased construction support. Because of the complexity of the project has increased the amount that RK&K originally budgeted for construction support, that has to be increased a little bit as well because of the complexity of the project.
But it's going to be done $80,000 less than budgeted?
Construction, yes.
Constructions.
Yes.
Is that to the county, or is this partly grant money too and part of the town of Westminster, city of Westminster, right?
So the breakdown of the construction cost, that was early on in the project, that was early in the concept, and their cost estimate at the time didn't really bear on the requesting the funds for the grant at that point because it was so early in the design project. However, they identified that based on their construction cost estimate, if they redesigned, that they could save us $80,000 in construction costs. So that brought the anticipated cost back at concept down by $80,000.
And just so you know that the estimated cost at this point for the project are around $3 million. Now, as of several weeks ago, we anticipated the impervious acre treatment to be around 100 acres. But with this reevaluation, that could take up the impervious acre count somewhat, not a whole lot, but at this point, based on the impervious area and the cost of the project, we're at $30,000, which is where we like to be on these projects. But we're only going to be paying for around $1.1 million of the project versus the grant that's going to fund the $1.9 million. So that money is already available to us, and it's been awarded to us for the project.
Now, what is a gravel lens?
So that's
what we do to look at gravel roads up in my district.
But that's what I was afraid of. But,
So that's an idea I came up with to try and address thermal impacts. So one of the concerns that the Department of Natural Resources has in streams is that if you have a wet pond, there's a thermal impact from solar radiation heating up the water that's in the pond, and that goes into the streams and affects the ability for the streams to hold trout. So the deeper that you have a pond, you can get some dissipation of that heating of the water. Now, we can only go so deep with this pond, but the idea is that if we excavate that pond 4 feet, 3 or 4 feet deeper and put gravel in it and have an underdrain system that's used to draw the water from the bottom of the pond to outlet, that extra 3 feet will increase the overall depth of the pond, and there will also be mixing with groundwater to cool the water before it leaves the pond and goes into the streams.
So currently, DNR only looks at, they like dry facilities. So what we're trying to do is we're going to do monitoring, and we've started it already. We've started pre-construction monitoring, and we'll do post-construction monitoring, because what we're trying to do is have enough information for them to be able to say, okay, this does make sense, and we're willing to work with you on these types of facilities in the future, because honestly, these are probably cheaper than our sand filters, because the sand filters cost a considerable amount of money to install. But I'm going to ask Tom, because he's been involved in a work group to
He's been hiding
talk a
back
little
there. He
bit
didn't want to
about-
come up.
I'm just here for support today, that's all. Now, one of the issues that we've come upon here in the last few years is the thermal issues, as Chris indicated, and that is the overheating of our streams. And in Carroll County, we have been blessed with the amount of work we've done here, I think, through our conservation district and putting stream buffers and all the work that these folks have done, hard work to make our streams better. We have cool water streams. Those cool water streams have trout in them. We found both stock trout and native trout that are there. And so in order to address this issue, which they don't like ponding water, visible water that soaks up sun rays, we're trying to make alternatives. And unfortunately, we somewhat learned this the hard way, because we had a project that we were permitted and ready to construct, and the Maryland Department of Environment strongly encouraged us to reconsider something else, and so we had to back out of that project. So as a result of that, the work that Gail and Chris are talking to you right now, that is a result of this process where we're trying to reevaluate, retool some of what we're doing, and actually create a situation where we can continue with these projects and do this work, but do it in a more environmentally conscious and a permittable way. And so that's one reason why the scope of this project is kind of taking a little bit of a turn. I won't say a 90-degree turn, but a little bit of a turn, is because now we're looking at trying to do that process. This particular stream, where this project is at the headwaters, the beginning, is one of the streams that the state is looking at very strongly to make some adjustments in it, how its designation is, and make it a cool water stream. So there's a lot of reasons we need to be moving in this direction, and I think it's a great opportunity for us as a county and as an organization to kind of lead in this new kind of wave of looking at water quality benefits.
So this will support brook trout when we get it done, right?
No, sir, I will not say that. They have found brown trout downstream from us, yes.
So a couple things. One, it's kind of scary that I actually understand everything that you've been sharing. And it must be. No, it's also because of you're using small words, and I appreciate that. No, it is making good sense to me. A couple questions, though. One is, you said it's in the Westminster, in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Are they taking on any of the cost in doing this, or is that not theirs to do?
That's the MOA I was referring to.
Right.
That's actually the 80-20 split with the
Okay.
municipalities, so 20% of the cost of all the retrofits are put into a pot, and then it's distributed out, basically
Okay.
that way. But they have long-term maintenance responsibilities. They will be maintaining that facility in perpetuity because they are the owners, so we won't be involved
Okay,
with
and that also led to, they do have a plan to operate this, so we're not going to continue to come back.
That's correct.
The the Corps of Engineers comment, does resonate. It makes sense that they have to reallocate their resources if priorities come up. Philadelphia could be difficult, Corps of Engineers. I expect you're documenting the challenges you may have with the Philadelphia Corps of Engineers, and let the Baltimore Corps know, hey, you're the go-to for us, and the best we can keep that going, the better we are, and this is why, because we don't want delays, especially if it's coming out of Philly. So, again, that's just from
Yes.
my past experiences.
Yes, we've done that, yes.
Okay, great.
I learned that if you want to look at rocks, you don't use a gravel lens.
Now, the sidewalk was designed and they're just taking it out, or it's there and you're removing it?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the original scope, we were looking to have a sidewalk. There's a sidewalk network that runs from the community pond through, what's the name of the subdivision?
Eden Farms.
Eden Farms, and then there's another sidewalk or pathway that runs from Bennett Surf
Yeah.
to Eden Farms. And the idea was that we were going to connect those two pathways through this project, because that would run right along through there. What we determined, though, was that there were some issues with crossing people over Sunshine, that there were going to be some traffic issues, traffic control issues. And when we looked at it some more, we decided, there's an existing sidewalk that runs along Sunshine, so there is a way for people to walk between the two pathways already. So creating a new pathway, there's not an enormous benefit to it. And so the sidewalk had already been designed and had already been put into the plans, and so we then had to direct RK&K to remove it. There is some level of effort to going through and changing the plans and changing the grading to remove that sidewalk. So
Is that part of the $80,000 savings?
No, that was not part of the $80,000 savings. The
So it could
$80,000
be
savings was
a little
strictly
bit more.
grading. Yes, that would be more savings,
Pay for the
yes.
plan, yeah. Okay.
I assume this is in Commissioner Fraser's district?
It is,
Yes.
yes.
Someone else want to make the motion to move?
Go ahead.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the change order from RK&K in the amount of $35,560 for engineering associated with the Willow Pond Stormwater Management retrofit.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good job.
Thanks for your answers.
I'm glad you asked about the gravel lens, because I felt stupid.
Okay, signature authority for airport grant agreements. Scott Moser. Hi, Scott.
Good morning, afternoon.
Our Deputy Director of Public Works. And I'll let you
Yep.
do the introduction.
Hi, this is our new bureau chief for the airport, Mark Myers. He's been with the county for about 10 years. He was the second in command at the airport for the last 10 years, so he knows it very well. We were lucky to retain him and have him just step in and take over. So I welcome him and moving forward.
Nice to meet you all.
Welcome aboard.
Thank
Or-
you.
Or welcome aboard still. How's that? Okay.
Now we need to fill his back up. Okay, today we're here about the airport and the grants. As you know, there's numerous grants that go with this project, and very large grants. Department of Public Works has been working with the FAA, Federal Administration, and MAA, Maryland Administration, in getting the grants for this airport. The FAA is approved by the FAA has been approved, and the master plan is approved, as well as the EA, which is the environmental assessment. And they're the two big steps that kick off the project. Once they were approved, now we can move forward. And I know everyone's been excited about getting the shovel in the ground. We are ready for that part. So this was huge.
Excellent.
So moving forward, what we're trying to do, there's multiple grants that go along with this project. For instance, I just kind of looked at the first set of work, which will be the rework at the airport, the airport, of Meadow Branch Road. There's somewhere between 7 and 10 grants that will go for each piece of the work. And so what we're trying to do is combine this together so we come to you right now with approval of the whole project, and we don't have to come back for grants. Now, if there's a scope change, if we have to come purchase property, things like that, we will definitely come back to you for approval. We're just asking to save time and move forward with grants that are already approved. It's just because of the amount of money that we're spending that we have to come back before you.
Okay. A little bit different than what we've done before.
It is. But the grants are going to pick up. Right now, we have one grant a year that are coming through. Like I said, looking at the next grant or the next pot of work, which is the design and construction of Meadow Branch Road, there's going to be roughly 10 grants. And each grant's about an inch and a half. You know how typical thing works. And we have to go through that, get copies approved, send it around for signatures. And if we could just take that since the project's approved and say, okay, we can keep going with this piece, it would save time and money for everybody.
Will we be updated on what's happening along the way?
Oh, absolutely. You'll see as we purchase property, that will always come to you for those. And if you want, we could do a yearly update just to keep the board approved. We've been doing that. Last year we did one. I think it was about 2 or 3 years before that before we had done one. But we'll come regularly to keep you abreast of what's going on.
So I know what you're thinking, Eric, as you're looking at me. There's no
Pointing at the county
procedural
attorney.
issues that we have with this as it pertains to the acceptance and awarding of the grants. We've kind of, I think we've breached that before, the way in which we do that.
My only concern was any
Right,
legal issues.
we don't have to do each one.
No, that's a matter of board policy.
Okay. And we don't
That was my only concern.
And we don't have to jump through any hoops to continue that policy on a specific project.
No, and as Scott said, if there are any changes beyond the scope of the project in any way, whether it's a change in the scope, similar to what you just approved, or whether it's purchasing property as they go along, and they'll be here for those things, along with other regular updates. But this is more just back room sort of signing the grants, and it just alleviates a lot of extra work for you guys.
As long as we're kept informed and no surprises.
Yeah, so that's the only challenge that I have. We hear a lot, or at least we did, and I think it's kind of, but as work continues or now starts to occur out there, the phone's going to start to ring again. So my only ask would be that even if you just provide us a list of the grants that you all have, and it doesn't have to be the detail, just perhaps the grant and what it's associated specifically with. Like, for instance, Meadowbranch. Because if somebody calls me and says, hey, Steve, what's going on at Meadowbranch? You guys are digging across the road or whatever. Is that part of the airport project? I can probably say, yeah, but yet I'm not sure. So to Commissioner Weaver's point, it would be nice just to maybe be provided a list of and again, we don't have to get all the detail, but a list of the grants and what is associated with the work that is being done for that particular grant. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so what we could do, if it makes sense, is once we get the next year's grant list together and the package gets together, we could just take the first page and make a copy and send to you. That's just a generalization of the whole grant, instead of getting the 40 or 50 pages that come with it.
That's what we're looking for.
Okay, that's what I was.
Just something to keep us in the loop of the project as it moves through each of its phases. That's all. So that we have a little bit of knowledge as to what's going on.
I mean, I always got a white paper where you just get the.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's it. But I agree, because of the fact that it's going to pick up in pace now,
Yeah.
Having to approve all these grants is a little bit, yeah. Now, is there anything in the county with the ordinance or what have you on the amount of the grant? I mean, because we had talked about that before too, when certain grants get to a certain level.
No, so as it works in the county, you have sole authority to do everything, sign.
Well, we already know that.
You are the ones responsible for all signing.
Right, right.
And you can delegate that authority, and you already automatically do.
Right.
On many things. And so this is just an additional delegated authority that you would be giving to the deputy director.
Okay, but isn't there a ceiling on those? That's.
Well, in our delegation of authority agreement or resolution, whatever the right word is, there is, but this would be sort of separate from that, and you can take your own.
Okay.
Take your own rules about what authority you choose to delegate.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're doing it in the right way, and also not to take away this, everybody loves this word, the transparency of the project.
I think I can clear that up. For instance, a large project we have right now, the water treatment facility, I think it's an $18 million project that's broken up. The award was for $18 million. All those pieces in between, since the total project was awarded, are approved to move forward unless there's a change. So this is no different than that if you want to look at that picture.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a different way to look. Yeah, all right.
I did make one mistake, probably more, but the one big mistake. We're looking for signature authority in this approval.
Right.
That's the term.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I asked, because we had given that, or had talked about doing that, but it was based on a ceiling, I thought. That's why I was.
The delegation of authority as it's written today dovetails with purchasing, so that as a, in our current form of government, there's state law that says Carroll County has to go out to an RFP to bid, to buy things, so to speak, at more than $25,000. And then there are other limits below that. And our delegation of authority resolution as it's written today dovetails with that. So when staff has the authority to sign something, and it's undefined delegation of authority in other ways, but if it's under 25,000, we can still do it. If it's over 25,000,
They have to come to us, right.
But again, what you're doing here is giving the specific authority based on this project as a whole, similar as Scott said. It's a
Okay.
good analogy to the wastewater treatment plant.
But, so, here it's recommended that we transfer that authority, and I wouldn't believe we should be transferring authority, we should be delegating
I would say
authority.
delegate.
Because we remain the authority
Right, right.
overall, so I wouldn't want to put that, well, burden on you, but to transfer. And, no, I mean, this, bottom line is this allows, I won't say less bureaucracy, more direct, decision-making for those that are actually doing the work. So that's kind of where we're at with this, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the willingness that you want to have that authority to do this, because with it comes responsibilities, The transparency piece of this is going to be very important, that we continue to see, and the community continues to see the activity going on associated with the grants. But, yeah, delegation, not transfer. Is that, okay?
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
appreciate
And we'll
that.
get less paperwork?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
With that,
Yeah,
I-
okay, and I just want to be clear, all of that being said, Scott, many of us in the room have lived through the airport project and the things that are associated with it. So I just want to make sure that we know what's going on, because you know how it's, Mike, you remember too, I'm sorry. Mark, you remember too, because it can get interesting out there.
Oh, it will be, yeah. There's no doubt.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, but I think your caution is spot on. It makes sense that not only you know, but that citizens know, especially as they see
Right.
troubles coming out.
And that's my only point.
Whatever it
My-
may be,
how-
that they know what.
Right, however you want to do it, and if it's the white paper, whatever, we have got to know what's going on, that's all.
Well, also, I guess what I was going to suggest, based on that not only that you are given sort of a list of projects as they come through these grants, but also that we put out to the public a notice through Chris Weinbrenner.
Yeah.
You would work with them to let the public be aware, so they don't even have, hopefully, prevent them from even reaching out to our offices,
Yeah.
that they can look, for themselves, or it's in the newspaper or whatever. If I may.
Yeah, okay.
I move the Board of County Commissioners delegate signature authority for the grants related to design and construction of the Carroll County Regional Airport Expansion Project to the Director and Deputy Director of Public Works, with regular updates and notices of grants in progress.
I'll second.
That was well done. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
You sound surprised.
Unanimous. No, what's it?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you, Scott.
thanks.
Good luck to you.
And, yeah, good luck, Mark, because you've heard a little bit about, the challenges that lie ahead out there when a piece of dirt gets moved.
I understand.
Okay.
You might see editorials about it.
I understand.
All right, bid approval for additional design services for the North Pumping Station.
We just broke ground for this. We're already changing
Andy,
it?
our Bureau Chief. Hi, Andy, how are you? And Bureau Chief of Purchasing, Mike Myers.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Haven't appeared in front of the new commissioners yet, so welcome. Mike
Thank
Myers
you.
with the Bureau of Purchasing. First item today, late last year, the Board of Commissioners awarded a contract to Century Engineering in the amount of $121,000 for the design services for the North Pumping Station. Due to some design changes since then, we'd like to get your approval to award a change order to that existing contract in the amount of $28,000. I'll turn it over to Andy. He can tell you about the particulars of the change order, but I think it's another case where a little bit extra in design is going to save us a lot in construction down the road.
Okay.
what has happened, in August, we came before you for approval of the initial scope of work. The north pumping station in Hampstead is located north of 432, south of the car wash on the west side of 30. It's adjacent to the IDA property. The IDA has been in need of a separate pumping station for sewer work, for sewage conveyance, based on their site improvements. So for the past several years, there have been on and off again conversations about combining forces and including one pumping station for the overall benefit of that area. After the initial design award was given in August, we finally reached a firm agreement with the IDA folks that we are going to be able to get property on the IDA site to upgrade to one larger pumping station. So this change order pays for the additional consulting costs associated with that relocation of the pumping station. The benefits of that pump station, well, the first one is obvious. Instead of maintaining two separate pump stations, the county will only end up maintaining one pump station on the IDA site. And the second crucial part of this is we're able to go from a very confined site on Main Street to a much larger site that allows us to add certain improvements to the pump station layout. The most important of which is a separate well for the grinding pump assembly, which gets it out of the wet well for the common sewage. It'll help make the life expectancy of those pumps as part of the wet well last an awful lot longer. So we're very excited about this change of scope, and it will be a great benefit to the county moving forward.
You're keeping the same firm
Yes.
to do the engineering or the design?
Yes.
So, Dick, this is in your
I'm
this is in
just,
your neck of the woods. So, questions from you?
Wrapping my head around this whole thing we were doing. So you're upgrading the size, basically, of the pump station. Is this due to also the addition of the industrial park area?
Yes,
right
that's
there.
correct. The size of the new location will be able to
So
very
now's
easily
the time to
accommodate.
do this rather than build all the facilities, then have to come back and upgrade the whole thing.
Correct. Yes.
So this is good for economic development in the future?
Yes, most definitely.
You want to move to?
Oh, yeah, well, I move the Board of Commissioners award a change order to design services for the North Carroll Pumping Station to Century Engineering in the amount of $28,000.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sampling, testing, and reporting services for the Freedom Water Treatment Plant.
Correct. Yes, our second request today is to award a contract to Maryland Environmental Services in the amount of $30,181.50 for sampling, testing, reporting services for the Freedom Water Treatment Plant. Basically to, I guess, meet our permits and our reporting requirements, we need to have somebody do these tests and, submit the reports to the state of Maryland. So we'd like to contract with Maryland Environmental to perform those services.
So, have we used MES before for this, Andy?
For this purpose, no. Part of the scope of work also lets MES give an evaluation of the testing parameters. We are testing a little bit more than we legally have to right now. So MES is going to be able to give it a once over and let us know what exactly needs to be tested and what does not need to be tested.
Okay.
It's well past due to have this done.
Okay.
Is there a reason why we're sole sourcing this to MES and not putting this out for bid?
MES, quasi-state government agency, their prices for this type of service is generally much better than an environmental engineer or somebody like that. We have in the past gone out to bid for environmental engineers for testing reporting. MES is generally much cheaper.
Has it been accepted in the past that we've sole sourced to MES before?
Yes.
For this amount?
Yep.
Or?
For different types of work, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just have hesitation anytime we sole source not make it competitive
Mhm.
to the rest of the community, even if it's, you do it for a short amount of time, knowing the results, and then build that, again, that precedence to, okay, this makes the best sense, let's stop wasting resources, sole source to MES, because they are the only suitable firm or contract to do this.
Yeah, we do feel like we're at that point, but yeah, we
Okay.
understand your concern for sure, yeah.
Well, don't they run the Freedom plant itself?
They do. Yes, they do. And-
Oh, the
yes.
wastewater treatment plant, okay.
And also, Commissioners, they do contract with hundreds of wastewater and water treatment plants statewide for the same services. So we're very confident that the prices are good. The
And
services are good.
and I appreciate, and that is very key to me, your confidence level and use of that, so I appreciate it.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion, move the Board of Commissioners award the contract for water sampling, testing, and reporting for the Freedom Water Treatment Plant to Maryland Environmental Services in the amount of $30,181.50.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous as well. Thank you very much. Okay, bid approval, A&E Services for Johnsville Road sidewalk. Eric's joining the fray. Hi, Eric. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
Best for last. All right, so the county has plans to build a sidewalk on Johnsville Road, so we had to go out for A&E Services to actually design the sidewalk. We requested proposals. We received 9 proposals. We shortlisted those based on technical requirements. The 3 highest are there on your briefing sheet. We then requested full proposals and financial proposals from the top 3 rated firms. Clark, Azer, and Associates was the highest ranked, both financially and technically, so we'd like to go ahead and award the A&E design services to them in the amount of $44,300.
For my edification, what part of Johnsville Road are we talking?
So it's, I've got a project description if you want me to kind of go through that real quickly for you. So the Johnsville Road Sidewalk Project will provide a fully functional ADA compliant sidewalk between Eldersburg Elementary and Liberty High School along Johnsville Road.
Well, there's a sidewalk there now on the school side. Are you talking about on the other side?
No.
Because there's a,
Between Eldersburg Elementary and Liberty High School, there's not a sidewalk. There's a road shoulder that the children currently walk down. There's not a sidewalk there, but it gets a lot of traffic from school children that walk that part of that road. We feel it would be much
oh,
safer
okay, I
for there to be
apologize.
a...
There's a sidewalk in front of Eldersburg Elementary. You're saying past that, from that point to Liberty High School?
Yes,
Got it.
exactly.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, to the four-way stop.
How long is that
Thanks.
sidewalk?
It's 800 linear feet.
Yeah. And there's a lot of traffic, a lot of
Yeah, there
foot
is.
And this is an area that was designed without sidewalks originally, a lot of it in that area, so. all these
Also,
help.
excuse me, sorry. Also, it's important to note that this project is a U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration federal aid project funded by the Transportation Enhancement Alternatives Safe Routes to School grant program. A lot to say there. And it's administered by the Maryland State Highways Administration. So for this particular project, 80% of the funds are coming from the federal Safe Routes to School program, and 20% is a Carroll County match. So for this particular bid for design services, got those numbers here. Sorry, I lost my place, but the federal portion for this design would be $35,440, and the Carroll County match would be $8,860.
That's great news.
It's a
I mean,
good deal.
It's a great program.
So-
Yeah.
So we pay the 44 and then get reimbursed, is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay.
I know that area specifically, because I do run it, and there is, that concern leaving the sidewalk onto that, shoulder, especially because there's a bit of a turn there as well to that stop sign. Other schools with sidewalks where there's no sidewalks, like Piney Elementary on Freedom, is that also being looked at? There's a bit of sidewalk there, but, could it fall into this same type of program?
Comprehensive planning has been looking around the county, yes, to see what sidewalks fall into this particular program
Okay.
and are furthering their investigations on what we may apply for in the future.
Okay.
But we want to make sure our commissioner down in Freedom District doesn't get hit while he's running.
Yeah.
That's right.
We get Piney Elementary, that would be a really good one. So, because Freedom, I mean, it's a narrow road, there's no sidewalk, and there's a lot of foot traffic on Freedom Ave around Piney Elementary. The parking's tough, so people park on the road and then walk, and it becomes a challenge. So just,
Yeah.
I would appreciate you guys taking a look at that as well. Yeah, I can make this motion. I mean, it's a good area. That the Board of Commissioners award the contract for the A&E services for the Johnsville Road Sidewalk Project to Clark Azar and Associates in the amount of $44,300.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That's good stuff.
Okay, I know we'll
I
do.
apologize. When do you think they're going to be moving dirt on that?
Well, so we're just gonna, you just give us the permission to start design. Unfortunately, I got to report to you that it took us probably well over a year to get that design through with all the red tape and that comes with these funds. So we're probably a good year and a half away from actually putting shovel into the ground.
Okay.
It's likely that we will start while school is not in session. That's the way the
Right.
Board of Education likes us to proceed with these projects, so.
Okay.
All right?
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, anything for open admin? I know we got agendas, but do you have anything?
Yeah, last week we had two closed sessions, last Thursday, the date was the 24th. One for land acquisition and one for personnel. So we need to approve the summary of the closed minutes. If somebody wants to make the motion to approve both of those.
This is different from what you're used to. When you used to have written minutes, this closing statement was incorporated into the written minutes when you adopted them. Since we no longer have the written minutes, we still have to adopt a summary of the closed sessions at the next available meeting.
Okay, and that's fine, but we haven't seen the summary of the closed.
It's actually the closing
It's the
statement.
same thing.
Oh, it is? Okay. Okay, all right. Okay.
I motion to approve what she said. I think that's simple enough.
Motion to approve both sets of closed from January 24th.
A motion to approve both sets of the closed session from January 24th.
And you'll be seeing these in the future, at the week after, the next meeting after you have a closed session.
Okay.
So you have a closed land acquisition this week. Next week, we'll be approving the closing
Okay.
statement for that one.
Okay, 2 second?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
It'd be helpful in the future if you write down a little tagline for us to read off.
We'll do that. We'll put it.
Okay, anything else? Anything else?
Not for me, no thank you, sorry, except for signing stuff, which you always have.
Agendas. Oh, boy. All right. On Groundhog's Day, Commissioner Weaver will be, oh no, that's not on, that's on another piece of paper.
You shot all your groundhogs.
We're going to be watching Pete.
Week of February 4th, Tuesday the 5th, we have an open work session, and that's in the Veterans Program.
That's specifically this shuttle, veteran shuttle program.
Okay.
Add that more specifically to that.
And then at 1:30, we have our joint Board of Commissioners and Board of Education meeting. That is now a home game for us, and it'll be downstairs in the Reagan Room at 1:30. Wednesday the 6th, Mako, myself and Commissioner Rothstein, 6 p.m., Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Rothstein. 7 p.m. is the Board of Education operating budget hearing, Commissioner Weaver. Thursday the 7th, 8 a.m. is the Ag Business Breakfast meeting at Bulgars, Commissioner Weaver. Then we go into open session, public hearing, what's that, oh, the Water and Sewer Master Plan, Housing Annual Plan, they were here today to talk about that. Department of Citizen Services, grant contingent positions, briefing on that. And then we will be getting a briefing or an update, if you will, from the CC Visa work group, which is the future of EMS. Now, we had a session last week. That was CC Visa. This is their committee that was put together, or their work group, if you will, to look at where we are going in the future here. So we'll be getting the progress report from that group. 1 o'clock, we continue with the Environmental Advisory Council. That's the annual joint meeting that we have with them. We're going to do that up here? Downstairs in the regular room. And at 2:30, discussion on turf field. That evening, 7 p.m., Commissioner Rothstein has a speaking engagement at the Lions Club Zone meeting. Friday the 8th, Church of the Open Door Annual Sweetheart Banquet. With, yes, Commissioner Weaver. I say that in the manner that I am because it's the Sweetheart Banquet.
Are you sending him flowers?
Yeah, I don't know. New Windsor's Fire Company banquet that was rescheduled from January is the 9th, Saturday the 9th, and thousands of people will be tuning into WTTR that Sunday morning for me. Anything on the 4th? February 11th, Tuesday, open work session, and that's on the Carroll Transit System. And at 1 o'clock, we have another work session, and that continues our work with comprehensive rezoning. That evening is the Ag Center Dinner Board meeting with Commissioners Wance and Weaver. I will take you to that one. Wednesday the 13th, Maryland Economic Development Day at 10 a.m. in Annapolis. Commissioner Rothstein.
What?
Where's that?
Annapolis.
Okay.
It's their annual meeting.
They got it, okay. Mako will be down there again, Commissioner Rothstein and myself, and that evening at 7 p.m. is the Carroll 101 event, which is at the Community College, correct?
Yes.
And right now, Wance, Frazier, and Weaver. Thursday the 14th, open session.
I apologize. Was there an intent for all of us to be there that evening or no?
It's possible. But, okay.
Check your calendars. Right now, we've got it covered with 3 of us, but check your calendars. We can add the 4th and 5th. Open session on the 14th, exercising a critical farms program purchase, and then we go into closed for land acquisition. That's all we've got on the 14th?
No, it's filled up now. It just wasn't filled up yesterday when
All
I
right,
printed
well, we'll get to
these.
that next week when we do the week after that. Okay. And then Commissioner Weaver has the WTTR address that week. What were you going to say, Eric?
I believe that the Career and Technology Center had postponed last night's event to Monday night for Commissioner Rothstein and I to attend.
No,
think
I think
so.
it was Commissioner Weaver.
Oh, it was you and I? I'm sorry about that.
No.
I'm volunteering you for stuff. And I believe on Tuesday at 3:30, I have a meeting out in Union Bridge about the floodplain.
That's the 5th, or
Is it tentative or is it
no,
finalized?
that's the prior week, not the second week. That's the February 5th.
February 5th?
Yeah, the 5th.
Okay.
Tuesday at 3:30, I need to be out there,
I believe,
All right, some of these things, hold on a second. Some of these things don't get on the master if they're individual meetings.
All right.
But I would suggest if you do want them on the master so that folks know that you are meeting out in your particular district or wherever, that you do add it to the master. So
And
that's fine.
it is fine, just have your coordinator make sure it's on the master calendar, because I don't go through the individual calendars.
Correct.
Okay.
next week, Wednesday before
That's Monday night.
Mako, we're meeting
It's coming
with
Monday.
Craig.
The 4th.
Shoemaker
Yes.
House.
At what time?
So,
Yeah, we don't need to put that on the master.
You sure?
I think we're fine.
I'll double
Yeah,
check.
just to-
because it's going to involve a whole bunch of us.
Well,
in
just the 2 of us
discussion.
though.
And Mike and,
It's hard to keep track.
no, Mike.
Oh, well, yeah.
Their schedule.
Well, we
Is
can
it
put
just
on
2
there.
commissioners, though?
It is.
Okay, well,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Got it.
All right, anything else on the agendas? And that, again, that's just, that's the way that I've conducted my calendar over the last 4 years, because there are sometimes, like, for instance, Commissioner Rothstein's speaking engagement at the Lions Club, you know, that's good to put on the master so that folks know that, and if they weren't going to go, maybe they will go now, or if
Now
they will
he's
going to
there.
go, they won't go now. It works both ways.
Keep going.
Okay, anything else for open? Anything on agendas? All right, I need a meeting to go into closed, or I need
I move we
a
go
motion
into
to go into
closed.
closed for land acquisition. Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then I'll need a motion to close after that. Or to adjourn, I'm sorry.
Adjourn. I'll make a motion we adjourn after closed land acquisition.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're going into closed. Just to remind everyone, with the temperatures the way they are, just stay safe out there. Check on your neighbors, especially our seniors, and make sure you make a phone call.
And your
check.
pets.
And your
Yes,
pets. Yes. Yep. Okay, we're going into closed. Thank you.